Hey, hey, happy Monday to everyone. Thank you for those who have opted on. Please get the likes up. Tag anybody on this broadcast who you think may find it interesting. Um, Also, I just want to give a special shout out to those who have sent any support my way. If you want to show support, you can find me on Cash App or Venmo. Also, lastly, I now have channel membership open, so you can become a monthly member and receive exclusive updates and videos from me. So if you want to know more, check out my channel membership page and become a monthly member. With that said, I wanted to hop into today's topic. So I have a lot to say on this on this matter. I'm trying to think where to begin. Um, where to begin? Where to begin? Well, I will say this. There is a growing there is a growing number of men that I've met personally and just who have voiced their concern online of what they believe to be just the, I guess, overtaking of feminism within the church, if you will. This idea that just most churches, mainstream church in general, is really focused towards women, to the point to where many men are feeling that they're no longer relevant. They're feeling like they're put into positions where it's not even addressing them. They're placating women, and I mean, this has become a common thing. I know Kevin Samuels did something about this a few weeks back, where he really just focused on the church. And just even in my own personal life, I've had conversations with successful men, successful black men, successful white men, just men of different ethnic backgrounds who, for whatever reason, they're of marrying age. They have a good career, and maybe they have a home, they have a stable place to stay. They're bringing in good money, and they're unmarried. And you talk to these men, and you talk to these men, and what I notice sometimes is, okay, what's being said or what's accepted, what's the accepted response versus what's actually happening. For example, you know, I believe in many, unfortunately, in many Christian church circles, people just can't have preferences. Men in particular cannot have sexual preferences. If there's a Christian man or a godly man that says, "Hey, you know, I want to date a woman that's tall, or women that has really long hair, or I really like women with green eyes, or I like women with, a nice, booty, like whatever." If a man was to say that, especially in some of these church settings, he's gonna hear it. He's gonna hear all kind of, oh, you're carnal, or you're not, you need to see through God's eyes, you need to see in the spirit, or just all this kind of different stuff. And so it's created a point to where men can't even come in these different spaces and just really be who they are. I've noticed some of these strong Christian men silently go and pick their preferences. They don't tell anyone. They don't announce it to the world. They just silently go and pick their preferences. Prime example, prime example of this is, I remember when I was on a honeymoon with my husband. We were flying out, and so we were waiting in line, and right next to us was this gentleman. He could not have been younger than 60. He was minimum 60 years age. So we start talking. We find out I think he's like the president of some Bible college or some theological college. It's somewhere in East Texas, some big Christian institute, whatever, in East Texas that he's in charge of. And so we're talking to him, and then as we're talking, he shares with us, he's like, yeah, and my wife, she's going to be celebrating her 25th birthday this week. And he's all excited, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, this guy is no younger than 60 years old. He's excited about the fact that his wife is going to be celebrating his 25th birthday. Like, he's like low key boasting about it. And then I kind of made this comment. I was like, okay, like, you found somebody you really like she works with you, whatever. I make this comment, and he responds like, oh no, the only thing that matters is that she loves Jesus. The only thing that matters is that she loved Jesus. His wife is 25-year-old and happens to be from the Philippines. So you mean to tell me, as a man of a president of like a big Christian college in East Texas, you couldn't find an American woman in East Texas that loves Jesus or that loves God? You had to fly clear across the country to get a woman half your age that believes in the same God you do? And I'm listening to this, and I'm just like, this dude is being dishonest. He just wanted a young Asian woman, but he couldn't say that. He could not openly say, I want a young Asian woman. That is my sexual preference. He couldn't say that. So he had to go create this whole whatever. He had to go move in silence and pick his preference. He couldn't openly say that. And like I said, I've seen this time and time and time again. Men, even in church, marrying women half their age and doing it in silence, not announcing it to the world, going and picking him, not picking the women within the church and their community. And you talk to some of these men, and they tell you it's because these women have become feminists. We don't feel like we fit with them. We don't feel like we can get along with them. This is actually what I've heard. I could be wrong. You guys let me know in the comment section if you think I'm, wrong, if I'm totally missing this or if I'm misunderstanding. But, from what I've heard, this is some of the complaints that I've actually heard from different men who have, tried to date women within the church, try to date Christian women. And they're just like, we can't even find women that we get along with. And again, anytime a man expresses his preference, his sexual preference, he can be demonized. That happens. That happens just in the real world, but it also happens in some of these different church settings. So thank you for those of you who have hopped on. Please get the likes up, tag anybody on here who you think may find this interesting. I'm actually talking a little bit about single women, Christian women, and just Christian feminism, and some of the complaints I've heard in the church. Now, with that said, I wanted to address something that I've actually seen and experienced as a woman who's been in church like most of my life, and that is this growing trend of there just being so many single women. So many single women. I mean, to the point to where it's like, you're starting to see more, more in the singles ministry, more in the sometimes even a divorce care ministry, then sometimes even in the marriage ministry. I feel like it's becoming a really, really interesting trend. And what I heard in my single years so often, and I think back to that time, and I think how actually it was unhelpful for me. But what I heard many times in those single years was, okay, just wait on the Lord, right? Which is basically don't do anything, don't prepare yourself, don't put yourself in situations to meet people that that could potentially be a good fit. Just wait on the Lord, just sit in your prayer closet, right? And then it was always like, okay, the longer you wait, it's like, oh well, God is just working on you. He's just working on you. He's just getting you perfectly prime and ready for that person. So all these like really hope filled comments and all these little all these little cliche cute, I guess, messages that didn't really have any meaning and didn't really have any impact. And when I was younger, like especially in my like late teens, early 20s, I held on to that and I was like, okay, well, that's what it is. I'm just supposed to just wait on God and not really do anything. I just, continue to, do church and do these different things. I don't really date. I don't really entertain people. I don't really court. I just believe that it's just gonna automatically happen without me putting any effort into it. And that if it hasn't happened yet, God wants it that way. It's because it's because I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And like I said, I believe that for some time. But I remember there's just one day in particular where I really sat down and thought about it. And I was thinking, okay, so the interesting thing about it is 50, even 60 years ago, these kinds of conversations would not have been an option. There wasn't a huge single ministry filled with majority women, with majority women who are waiting on God. That was not an issue. There weren't these conversations of, oh God, when are you going to send me the perfect man? Oh God, that wasn't the conversation. People just got married or people just got together. And it was like that for thousands of years. Shoot, even if you look at the biblical narrative, we didn't see women in the Bible praying and saying, oh God, when are you going to send me my perfect, I don't know, Abraham or Boaz or, whatever. If you guys are familiar with some of the stories, that never happened. People just got married. There was arranged marriages. Families came into agreement. People came together and said, okay, my daughter's going to go with your son, whatever. And they just got married. It was not this whole, Houdini kind of like hyper spiritual thing that we've made it. And so when I sat down and really thought about that, I was like, okay, so there's no way that now all of a sudden there is an entire generation of people that God himself has just willed to be single. Like that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And the more I really started to thought about it, the more I was like, nah, this just something just does not seem right. That just doesn't seem right. And here is the thing. Here is the thing. I think many women, many single Christian women, and I can say this as a woman who identifies with that because that was my life for a very long time. Instead of being told that, hey, it's okay, it is okay for you to actually desire to be in a relationship with a man. One, that's okay. Two, you actually need to be active in the process. Many of us, I think, are told to just be inactive, and we're not really actually taught or given the tools necessary to put ourselves in position to find men that we want, to find men that would be good husbands. Like it's like we're not even taught how to do that. And I think that what that ends up creating is a lot of disillusionment, and it ends up putting women into situations, single women in the church in particular, where they're waiting on God for something, or they're praying to God for something that they actually themselves already have the ability to do. But because they haven't been taught how to do that, or because they don't have the skills, maybe they don't have the social skills, maybe they don't really know how to be in a good relationship, because there's been all this weird hyper emotional stuff put around it, when it's really a lot more practical. I think it does create a lot of confusion. And here's the thing: I firmly believe, as a as a Christian woman, I firmly believe, in having a relationship with God and being spirit led, or being having the right intentions as you're doing things. I firmly believe in that. But so often when it comes to this particular subject, it's as if people remove all agency. It's as if people act like they have no say so in the matter. And women, Christian women in particular, have been put into situations. Um, like feminine women in particular have been put into just situations where they are told that you have to be happy in God, you have to be happy by yourself. If you're really, 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 if you're really spiritual, and this is where I think the feminist aspect comes in, because what many of us women are told is that you are supposed to be satisfied and happy in God by yourself. And if you have any ounce of desire, if you are not full by yourself, then you are lacking, then you are not a woman, and you need to pray more, you need to fast more, you need to give Bible study more, you need to give more tithes and offerings. And so they put this unrealistic burden on women, that if you are single and you desire to have a man, or you're struggling because you don't have a man, that there's something wrong with you and you need to pray more. You need to fast more. You need to, surrender your desire over to God. All these weird religious things that I'm just like, 50 years ago, they weren't even having these conversations. They were not having these conversations. And we don't see any of these conversations taking place in the Bible. Yeah, I mean, Paul says, okay, I think it's better to be single. He says that, but he also says most people don't have this gift. He's like, most of you guys should actually get married, because majority of you don't have what it takes to live a single life and actually be content and happy. Yeah, there's women out there, people out there who are single and struggling, and I say this as a person who talks to these women. Oh, I see. So thank you for the $20 super chat. I appreciate it. Um, Let me pull this up. I see the family-oriented masculine God is the ultimate threat to feminist. Ephesians 5:33, let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let his wife see that she respects her husband, just as a woman need love, men need respect. I completely and totally agree. I completely and totally agree. And I think, I mean, that's just one of many. I mean, I hadn't even listened to it, but saw this YouTube video come up where it was a woman talking about how, um, people who believe in the Christ, it's like their worship of man or something. It was something to the extent of, like, women worshiping men and women worshiping manhood and not being strong women because they believe in the Christ. Like, it was something to me that was really confusing. But I think you hit the nail on the head there, where uh some some women just actually don't want structure. They really don't, and they see the whole idea of this faith in general as just being too controlling. So I do agree with that. um I say love goes down and return respect goes up. Love is a verb, respect is an express noun. Yeah, love and respect is crucial. Love and respect is crucial, especially in a relationship. But with that said, so that is one thing that I have found, especially for single Christian women in particular, that instead of them being given the tools or being taught, okay, how to put yourself in situations where you can find somebody, being in situations where it's okay that maybe you don't feel happy about it. You're not thrilled that you're single. Um, Being okay with that versus being shamed. I was shamed. There was a few times where I was shamed, where I would express my desire, and instead of person being like, girl, I get it, or being like, man, like, let's help you, sometimes they'd be like, oh, well, you need to be more satisfied, or oh, well, God's just working on you, oh, God just wants you to be more happy in him. All this just weird stuff where it's just like, no, I'm actually a woman of age. I'm old enough to be in a relationship. I'm old enough to be married. What if it's just this is natural? What if it's just there's nothing wrong? Like, if a person doesn't eat food for 3 months, and then I go to somebody, I'm like, man, I'm hungry. I'm hungry for not eating food for 3 months. If that person tells me, oh, well, you just need to be satisfied in God, God is the bread of life, you need to, seek more of him than you'll be satisfied. Like, I'd look at them like they're crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, no, if I haven't eaten food in 3 months, maybe it's just I need to have food and I'll be okay. So I think some of these things, the loneliness. I mean, even if you just look up singleness, single woman, single Christian women, if you Google that stuff or look on the YouTube, you'll see different women sharing their testimony, sharing the challenges that they had, waiting on God, waiting on the Lord to send the perfect man. And I may even do another video on that where I talk about why waiting is keeping you single. And of course, I'm not encouraging women to just find any old dude off the street, because certainly you want to be wise in how you do that. But what I am saying is that putting women into a situation where they're, one, shamed for having a desire that's totally natural and totally healthy, and then also putting unrealistic expectations on them, like they're supposed to be like satisfied in God 100% and have no needs or wants and desires. That's weird. And I don't know if that's a little bit of feminism that's got in there, but that's weird because, like I said, all we have to do is, even if you just look at the biblical narrative or apart from biblical narrative, just look at how families and communities have actually existed for thousands of years. Men and women were together and there was community. No one was ever put into a situation where they were supposed to be alone and self-sufficient in and of themselves. That was never a thing. Even this whole concept of a whole nuclear family thing, this whole individualism, this is a very modern, recent ideology. But back in biblical times, people weren't thinking like that. Like I said, women got married. So they weren't having conversations of, oh, God, well, is it your will for me to get married or for me to not get married? Or is your, should I just date or not date? Like that, those weren't even conversations. So my point is, we can't make some of these things spiritual that are actually just really our personal, or really just our personal, our choice, just our personal choice. And it's unhelpful to women to it's I think it's just unhelpful to women to put unrealistic expectations on them, and then to not even give them the tools and what they need to do better. So thank you for those of you who have hopped on. Please get the likes up, tag anybody on who you think may find this helpful. um It says there is a lack of understanding of the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, the feminine image of God. I completely and totally agree with that. I totally and completely agree with that. With that said, I do recognize that unfortunately there are places out there, there are big ministries, there are big churches that make money off of keeping women single, and I honestly think that is why there's such a large population of single women who are in church, and they're not getting help. It's because there is money to be made off of that. There's money to be made off of selling hope to women, off of women's conferences, off of waiting on the Lord conferences, off of single saved and satisfied conferences, which I went to. Like, there's money to be made off of selling hope to single women who honestly feel lost and alone. And so, I would say, and as a person like as who has grown up and been in church almost my entire life, I've seen the good and the bad. I've been in communities and churches that have issues. I've been in healthy and good places. And so um I personally think, if anyone ever finds himself in a situation, or even in any form of a church community where it's like it's not even directly impacting your life, you know what I mean? There's no connection, there's no real community, there's no real bond, and you're not being in a place where you can actually, they're not actually assisting you for your life, then it's like you even have to question, okay, whether or not that's where you're supposed to be. I still believe in meeting, the importance of meeting with people who share the faith, meeting with people who are God fearing. That's super important. But there are unfortunately a lot of churches out there who aren't about that. They're not actually about wanting to seek the truth out. They're not actually about wanting to connect to the eternal being. They're about wanting to make money, and they're about wanting to exploit women to make money. And instead of helping them in these areas that would really change their life, selling them false hope and selling them lies. And I'm not for that. So that's what I would say. As a if you are a single Christian woman and you are desiring to be in a relationship, then it's like I always say that's a good thing. Not that you have to go and do anything crazy, not that you have to go and just pick some dude off the street or go marry a bum, but it's certainly okay to have that desire, and it's certainly okay to put yourself in situations to actually find that. And of course, in an ideal scenario, you will have already had a community, a dad, having a father, a mother, aunts and uncles, people who care for you, who can actually take you on this process. Because I don't think people should just be out there picking people by themselves. Like, even when I met my husband, it was like friends introduced us. I was still very connected with my community. I'm still connected with my community. So it was, to me, it was very much, I don't want to say it was community effort, but I wasn't out there going and making mistakes by myself. And I think women, this is why I do believe it's important to have men in women's life. This is why I do believe it's important to have the protection of a father, or the protection of, that was God's intention to begin with. It wasn't that many of us will go out here by ourselves, fending for ourselves, figuring out life by ourselves, guessing. Because many of the times when we find ourselves in those situations, we're just guessing. We're just guessing half the time. And then we may create a YouTube channel and then talk about, leveling up, or, how to be our best self, how to have better emotions, how to be happier single, how to not find validation in men, how to only find validation in God, and all these different things, when really internally we're just guessing. And we're kind of like going around in circles. And that's why I'm saying it is okay if you are a woman who loves God and it's just like, hell, I'm tired of being single. I actually want to be married. This isn't working for me. Like that, there needs to be a place where we can say that is okay. And there also needs to be a place, I think, where women are encouraged to get in situations where they can find that. Because God created marriage, He created family. And so it's always something that He desires. Anytime we're put in a place, to me, anytime we're put in a place where women are now like they're paralyzed. They're paralyzed almost from doing what is so natural to them, and they're enabled to the point to where they can't progress in these areas that many of them want, and then it becomes God's fault and it becomes God's reason, when it's like, no, it's actually within your hands to do something. Like, I don't know. I think that's really unhelpful. See, women see religion and being a wife as slavery. God says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing, not he who finds a woman who becomes a girlfriend who later becomes wifely when she feel like it. No, that's fact. You're right. Women do have to be raised to be wives. And that's a whole nother topic. I think you make a good point there, where some women do find being a wife as slavery. Some women who actually say they believe in God, say they believe in the inspiration of the scriptures, will take issue with some of these scriptures where it talks about what being a wife does. Will take issue with the idea of submitting to a man as a man submits unto God. We'll take issue with that. We'll take issue with the fact that, okay, the man is going to now be the head. That doesn't mean she doesn't have a voice. It doesn't mean that she's going to be controlled. But there are women who take issue with that, and that's where it's like, you can't have it both ways. You can't also want to be a boss babe, calling your own shots, doing your own business, doing your own life, doing your own thing, and then want to be a partner with a man as if he's your equal, and then also want to be taken care of as a traditional wife. Like like, this is where there has to be like, okay, an understanding of what does it actually mean to be a wife. And again, I think we have to start at the core. There's certain women they're not even put in positions where they know how to interact with a man on a healthy level. They don't even know how to interact with a man on a healthy level, let alone know how to be a wife. And these are lovely women within the church who have been in church, some of them their entire life, and haven't been taught these skills. And I'm like, that is a problem. This is certainly not all churches. I have been to really good church communities where they have really tried to get down and personal and help people with their lives. And I've been to also many of those who are just about money and just about selling hope and selling false dreams. And that is hurtful to women. And like I said, I say this as one who has experienced it and as one who still talks to these women today. Some of them who are, 30s, 40s, some of them even going on to their 50s, waiting on God, believing on God, doing this different stuff. And then you talk to them honestly, and it's like, sis, you don't even know how the opposite sex thinks. You have no understanding. Like, have you even have you even gone on a date? Where have you been? You know what I mean? So, this is anything that calls for some type of obligation routine on a woman's part, they take issue with. Thank you for the $5 super chat. I see Women seem to go from I'm having fun to I'm lonely almost overnight. Maybe that's what people call the epiphany phase. I can't. That's facts. I can't even lie. Yeah, I can't even lie about that because that's so facts. That's so facts. That's so facts. Thank you for those of you who have hopped on. Please get the likes up. Tag anybody on here who you think may find this helpful. Um, and yeah, we're just talking about Christian feminism, single, lonely women in the church, all kind of different stuff. So just to recap, earlier I was talking about how just preferences in general, how there are many men that I know who've expressed, frustration from finding women within the church that they feel like that they can work with. And I have noticed and watched and seen some of these men quietly go and leave their and get their preference. Quietly go and get their preference, not tell anybody, not, not try to prove it to anybody, just go and move and get their preference. Um, and it's interesting to me to know that to this day, men outside of the church and even within the church are ashamed for expressing what they want. And so this is a complaint that I've heard. This is something that I've noticed. Single, very, very single, very marriageable, very financially successful men who are they're waiting for women, and they're surrounded by women, and they're surrounded by single women, but they're not finding the women that they that they want. And you talk to them behind closed doors, or you piece together what they say, because some of these men they can't actually openly talk about it, or else they'll be they may be shamed, or they may be um yeah, they may be shamed. I remember one guy in particular who he was very vocal about his preferences. He's like, I really like women with long hair. He's like, I love women with long hair and with a pretty face. He was so vocal about that, and the amount of hate and shame he got on us almost on a daily basis. People being like, "Man, like you're so carnal, man, like you're so shallow. You shouldn't be talking about that." And he was like, dude, what's wrong with me wanting a woman with long hair? He's like, I like women with long hair and pretty faces. Like, what's wrong with that? And like, he would always defend himself. But anytime he would say that, to be like rolling their eyes at him, looking at him sideways. And then, a few minutes later, a woman would be like, oh man, like I really like a tall, like, of course, oh, I want to, of course, it has to, those start with the spiritual, like, oh, I really want a God fearing man. I really want a man that just knows how to pray. But, it'd also be nice if he's tall. Oh man, it'd also be nice if he has a beard. Like they kind of slip that in there. So they kind of make it all this extra spiritual thing. But then it's really just code for what they want on just like a base fleshly level. And that's what I'm saying. It's like it's okay to have preferences. Like I don't think you have to be weird about that. But unfortunately, men can't express it all the time without not facing shame in the church. And some of these very men complain about how they are having such a hard time finding eligible, marriageable women within the church. And these are the men who go to the same churches where there are countless, dozens upon dozens, if not hundreds upon hundreds of single women waiting on God's best for them. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? This does not make any sense. No way. All of a sudden, God is calling this entire generation of people to be single. This is weird. This is strange. So the reality is, there's a lot of women who just don't know how to even choose properly. They haven't been given the tools to do so. If anything, they're oftentimes sold lies, or they're told things that aren't helpful. Like, oh, you should just be so satisfied in God that you don't even want to be married, or just wait in the Lord and He's going to send them to you, or oh, just get so lost in God. Like all these things that basically make women inactive and then cause them to question their own desires. Like I said, when I would get shamed when I would express how I was unhappy with being single, or I got to the point where I was kind of tired of it, and I'll get shamed for that. And I'm like, this is weird, because 50, 60 years ago, even, this would not have been a conversation. People just got married. People just got together. It wasn't this weird hyper, oh, well, God, this is that. And I think at the end of the day, some of it is just, it could be a mixture of things. I don't know if it is, just the immersion of feminism within the church, and that really changing the way not only things are done, but changing the way women are taught, and the way women are expected to do things. And here's the thing: I'm like, if you're going to be a feminist, okay, be a feminist. But what's not helpful is to take a political position, or to take whatever position that's not necessarily in the Bible, that's not of God, and then just say, oh, well, this is God's best for me. When it's like, no, this is just actually what you want. If you want to be a feminist, then be a feminist. But don't say that's God's fault. You know what I mean? If you, you know, I don't know, if you want to be married or if you want to be in a relationship, then okay, you can put yourself in positions to do so. But if you don't date, you don't know even how to talk to the opposite sex, you don't look good, like you don't take care of yourself, and you know men are visual, like you don't even have like proper talking skills, relationship skills, like you can't it's like you can't even you can't do it. Like you can't blame that on God. You cannot blame that on God. That is your personal choice. And that's what I'm saying. Some of the agency has been removed. Many of the times the agency has been removed from women. Many single women out there in their 30s, 40s, 50s thinking, oh, well, this is God. And it's like, no, actually, this is you, but you've been told a lie. Like many of us have been told. And you haven't been given the tools to success. And, that's a problem. That is a problem. And I hope to see that change. And so there are places out there that exist. There really are. They may be few and far in between, but there are places out there that exist where they really are genuinely concerned about the lives of the people. They're concerned about making sure that people can have healthy, functional marriages, can get married, can find success in their career. Like those kind of churches or communities do exist. Unfortunately, that's not always what you see in the mainstream. And I would say if you find yourself in any kind of situation where it's almost like it just seems like there's a lie, and you feel like you're being told lies, and you feel like, more importantly, you're being used and they're selling you false hope. Yeah, I would question being a part of anything like that, because unfortunately that exists. So anyways, hey, what's up, Kevin Sells? Okay, I see you dropped the link. Oh, you want to call in? But let's see if I have enough time. Actually have, let's see. Okay, I have a few. I guess I have a few minutes. I can drop the link. So I guess you want to hop in for a moment. Let me see if I can do this. Oops. All right. So I guess if anyone wants to call in, I have about a few minutes. I have like maybe like 5-10 minutes before I gotta head out. Since we have someone asking, let me see. Yeah, so okay, if any of you guys want to call in, you are more than welcome. I have maybe about 5 or 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to hop off. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on the matter. Very near and dear to my heart. And I don't know, maybe there's women out there who resonate with me. I'm sure if they come across this, there's going to be some who do. I talk to them every day. Some of the every day, or not every day, a couple of times out of the week. Um, so, oh, that's what I see what you're saying. Yeah. And see, here's another thing that I would say about what it actually truly does mean to be a Christ follower. What does it actually mean to be connected to a community that is truly following God? It actually is supposed to bring change, and it's supposed to bring liberation. That's what the gospel is actually really about. And if that's not happening, if people's lives are being changed for the better, then we have to really question what's going on. I'm not necessarily talking about, oh, I go to the church and now I get $1 million. I mean, that's nice, but I'm talking about people from the inside out being changed, their confidence being changed. You know what I mean? Their perspective being enlightened. Like this is supposed to be about liberation. This is supposed to be about salvation on all levels. And if that's not actually happening, then you have to really question what's going on. Okay, I see somebody calling in. Hey there.
How you doing, Chaz?
Good, good. So what you got?
Well, believe it or not, and you're going to be a little bit upset. I didn't hear a word of what you're saying. I actually saw the link, or I
Hmm.
saw the title, and I wanted to cam up, or at least call in. Me and you had a show a long time ago. I was with you and what's her name, Rashida Strober.
Hmm.
Oh, so you do remember?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Okay, so can you just broach me the topic for like 15 seconds, and I want to just hop in real quick.
Wait, so what's the question?
I saw the title. It says "Single Lonely Women in something about the Bible."
Or Christian feminism. Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'm assuming you are making a topic point on why so many women are single and lonely that are Christian women, correct?
Yeah, that's I'm
Okay.
just talking about some of the different things that I've seen and noticed from them, and there's even some of the
Okay.
different complaints I've seen from men within the church.
Okay. Well, I would like to broach that topic if I can. Um, in my opinion, so I grew up in. Unfortunately, I grew up in the, and I know you're a Christian, so I'm not going to try to offend you. I grew up in the Baptist faith or the
Uh-huh.
Baptist aspect of Christianity, and it was a complete nightmare. I don't know if you were a Baptist or you don't sound like you're Baptist. You're more like
No, I grew
non-denominational.
up. So actually, no, my dad is a minister. To this day, he's a minister of music at the Baptist church. So I kind of
Okay.
had it colorful. I spent part of my days
Okay.
in Baptist and then part of my days in like a Pentecostal Kojic because I was
Oh,
kind of like an
okay.
R1. So I kind of got the whole gamut of
Okay. Well, here goes my thing. I grew up in a Baptist church. I stopped going to church at around the age of, I want to say maybe 12 or 13. My mom, I mean, literally, she used to go to church every damn day for Bible study, choir rehearsal, etc. My father did not go to church, but he definitely believed in the Abrahamic God. But he didn't go to church. There were days, there were Sundays where my dad would say, well, they could just stay home and we would just watch wrestling. I'm that old. So anyway, as I've gotten older, I have realized that the church, particularly in America, and I'm only speaking from a regional point of view, runs parallel to the current paradigm in society. Now, let me explain. So we live in a hypergamous society, and anything that the society is doing, I believe that the church runs parallel. So if you notice that when hip hop took off, the church all of a sudden introduced hip hop themed choirs, or the choir became more hip hop. Now, please, Chess, try to follow me on this because I think me and you are about the same age. In the '90s, you had your Kirk Franklins and you had your Mary Marys, etc., and they tried to mimic, or I don't want to say mimic, but they tried to adapt the hip hop culture to attract attention from the younger generations in the church. So what I thought, I really have never been a hip hop fan in terms of rap. I will admit there is some rap that is good, but generally I think rap is deplorable. But they took a very negative aspect of Black culture and they introduced it into church. And I think that they've also have taken hypergamy, which is sort of like what's taking place now, where social media is I would say social media has become the benchmark of of all the of paradigm. So you have women now if who have gone outside of their natural roles. So women who, if this was 1950, you know, they would have been housewives, but because social media is telling them that they can be Beyonce, that can be Rihanna, they can be any woman that they want, you have women who naturally are not these women. And I don't want to be disrespectful, so I'm just gonna say they're naturally not these women, if you catch my drift. And now you have women who are in a particular demographic who in the 1950s would have been a housewife. In the 1950s, they would have settled with the city worker. They would have settled with the blue collar man, etc. You now have women who are particularly average who believe that they can be with a high value man. And what has happened is that the church exemplifies this behavior too. So you have a lot of pastors now who and I've been to a lot of churches, they tell the women in the church that they need a certain type of man, and a man needs to do this for you, a man needs to do that for you. Whereas the churches of yesteryear, they particularly were more conservative. They you know they would shame the single moms. They would shame the female who was 30 and over and still wasn't married. But now it's the other way around. I've gone to, now mind you, I'm not spiritual or anything like that, but and Chaz, thank you by the way for letting me rant, because I'm trying to put this together real quick. But so they would are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
here.
So you know, you have now churches where the pastor, in my opinion, is encouraging a behavior of you don't need to be domestic as a woman anymore. The man needs to cater to you. When in fact, that is totally antithetical to what the teachings of the Bible are, or the teachings of the Abrahamic God is, etc. And now you have a church where men don't go to church anymore. Men don't marry women at the same rates that they did back in the day, and now you have a lot of women who are lonely because of that, in my opinion.
Right. No, I'll say this. I'll say this, and thank you for hopping on. Um, yeah, thank you for hopping out. See some. Oh, hey, what's up, Snuggles? I see that a lot in Bernard Riley's channel. I will say this: many of the churches today, I personally believe, let's say if Jesus was to come back today, tomorrow, they would be implicated in crimes. Majority of them would be guilty. What we see represented as the gospel today, by and large, is a false representation. It's not the truth.
Right.
And so I don't think, and I'm not going out there trying to prophesy or nothing like that, but just based upon the very scripture that these many churches say that they claim that they believe, they themselves are implicated in crimes and they themselves are guilty. So much of what you said, I totally and completely agree with. Much of what you said is the truth, and I
Hmm.
don't think I was happy about it. I don't. And I
Right.
I I tell some people today who are believers who are walking with God, where it's like, you better get ready, you better get really connected with the source, because with what's coming, with what's actually happening, you're going to need to know yourself if God is real or not, because it's about to get hot. And I'm not trying to prophesy anything in particular, but I just know the climate is quickly changing, because it's a mess. It is a mess. And like I said, what is being portrayed as a church has little to nothing to do with actually what God stands for, and I don't think he's really happy about it. So, so
Okay.
I agree with you on that point. As a person who is a Christ follower, as a person who still believes in the messianic, believes in salvation, all that kind of different stuff, I recognize fully what we see represented today more often than not is about political and about man
Right.
and about power, and it has nothing to do with transformation and liberation, which is actually what the gospel is about. So
Right.
I agree with you on that. I appreciate you. Have one more caller I'm going to take, and then I think I will hop off because
Have a good one. Thank you.
yeah. All right.
Hmm.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm great. I apologize for any background noise. I'm outside. I'm at the park.
No
I'm
worries.
next to the lake, so and I just wanted to catch a listen to you. Um, but yeah, to speak on the topic, uh, I would say it's three major things. Um, I would say one, um, the people don't realize the massive effect that birth control and abortion had on the incentive for women to go into families and to find a man as soon as they were out of the house,
Mm,
right? Because, so, okay, let me just say the three major things. First is birth control and contraception. So basically, women's sexual freedom, right? The the ability to have sex and be for sure or have confidence that you won't get pregnant and have a baby, right? So, two, the advent of feminism, the rise of feminism. I would say third wave, and now this new fourth wave feminism. And then finally is I would say the biggest pin, the final nail in the coffin is social media, right? And the degenerate culture brought on by the negative aspects of hip hop for Black people specifically. But yeah, like back in the day, so after 1965, when I think that's when the first set of birth control was released, and especially after Roe versus Wade was passed, women like divorce rates skyrocketed because a lot of women, you know, many women got with men simply because if they knew if I got pregnant, I'm gonna need a man to help me raise this baby. There's no way I can just get rid of the baby or something like that. So women looked for specific things. Women used to look for husbandly men. You get what I'm saying? Like men that wanted to be fathers and wanted to have families.
Right. No, totally. No, that makes sense. They
Yeah,
were actually taught how to look for the qualities that matter for sure. And that was also, prior to social media and some of the different things that are used on a day-to-day basis to compare your lives with celebrities. So,
and also just to touch on the whole thing, uh, I would say since the turn of this past decade, there's been a large rise in women, Black women also leaving just the faith in general. A lot of women are, especially Black women, are going to this. I'd say amongst the younger generation, are going into this whole empath spiritualism type thing.
I see.
Finding other
Yeah.
crystals and zodiac, like they're taking it as the new way of they're finding spiritual guidance, or just
Uh,
they're saying all organized religions, whether it be Christianity or Islam, anything with a strong masculine god is just another form of spiritual oppression on women. They're
yeah, which to me that just sounds utter foolish, as if God is a man. We see masculine and
exactly.
feminine attributes of him, but it's like as if yeah, as if God is I mean God is God. You cannot compare him to something that is
Yeah.
natural and fleshly. But with that said, you're right. I actually saw a like a small documentary about that not too long ago, and it was looking at African American women in particular, and it was saying that they were turning to witchcraft and different things. I mean, we even have different YouTubers who are kind of promoting some of this, or female YouTubers who are promoting this kind of activity. And at the end of the day, what's interesting is that the actions, although the outward actions may be different, the intention to me is the same, which is that there are a lot of women who, at the end of the day, don't want structure and they want to be able to control their own lives. So whether you want to control your own life by doing a potion and grabbing some crystals and thinking that's going to change your life, or whether you want to control your life by praying a particular prayer, giving some tithes, and hoping God's going to bless you, each either way, it's like if the intention is for you to control your life and to not want to have any structure, then that's not necessarily good. Period. And so
Exactly.
I've you're right. I've seen the same, I guess, maybe I don't know if it's discontent that women have or the same desire to rebel. I've seen it manifested in many different ways. But at the end of the day, I mean, you just have to look at a person's life and their fruit. And I have to talk to many young women about this, especially who are maybe some of them in their teens, early 20s, and tell them, look, you have to really be mindful of who you're listening to. Like if you're listening to somebody, I mean, I was even telling it. This is a single woman, like maybe she's like 30. I was talking to her, and I'm telling her, okay, if you're listening to single women about relationship advice, you're probably going to remain single. And I had to break it down to her. It's like you should take relationship advice from people that you want their results. So if you want to be married, You should probably talk to married people, people who've been married for, a few years, a few decades, ideally. Maybe they have kids or grandkids. That's who you need to be talking to. You don't need to be talking to your sister who had a few bad failed relationships, has a horrible relationship with her dad, and now she's trying to tell you how to run your life when she herself doesn't know what she's doing. And a lot of women, that's what's happening. It's like the blind leading the blinder, and then nothing happens. So,
Yeah.
to your point, I do understand there is a big push I see to get away from structure, and I
Hmm.
don't necessarily think that that's a good thing. I understand wanting to have, a level
It's
of freedom, maybe to create or maybe to explore yourself, but I think that needs to be done, and that can be done within the safety of a family and within the safety of community and relationships. And I don't think, my personal opinion is that women weren't meant to be going out there fending for themselves, which oftentimes we
yeah.
actually see happening.
And
Uh,
you know what? I think this is also how like a lot of black women are becoming divestors, right? Because our culture is promoting like a lot of black culture has just been infected with degeneracy, right?
yeah,
And that's in part a result of so much of us just you know it, it there's so many things you can talk that can attribute to that. Uh, but yeah, just the degeneracy that's promoted in our culture. So here's the thing: like women want to have full control of their lives, but they want that control to be like freedom, right? But here's the thing: when freedom, the extreme of freedom is chaos. So they're
yeah,
pushing for all this freedom, but I don't think they're realizing that it's going to ultimately lead them to more chaos in their life. And the point I make with the whole divestors is girls have all this freedom and they have all this spiritual freedom and physical freedom, having sex with whoever they want, you know, mental freedom, and financial freedom and spending money how they want, living recklessly, doing all this stuff. And then they don't realize is that when it comes to chaos and they realize, oh my God, my life is chaotic, they want to swing hard back left and they say, and they ultimately look for someone to blame for all that chaos and they say, oh, well, it's black men's culture. Black men are the reason that the culture is like this. And this is how they become divestors. They want to swing hard back into order, right? And they think that black men set up this lifestyle of culture in the black community. So it's our fault that that the chaos that was chaos in young women's lives starting off. So they run towards order, right? They either run back to school or they run back to church and they try to find a good man, right? But the good black men don't want them because remember, black men don't want women with a promiscuous past or a chaotic past. So they say, okay, if they don't want me, then let me go see if I can find a white man that will want me because he probably has more order and power and structure in his life than I do. So, but that's also comes
there's
from
yeah,
the yeah. So it's a many pronged thing. So
I agree. I'll wrap up with this: blame black men. I think when all else fails, that tends to be the default. Just blame black men.
yeah,
That's kind of that's the easy route. Let's not take, and I'm talking specifically to black women. Let's not take responsibility for our actions. Let's not look for what we did, and of course, I will say this is not every single woman. I know black women who are incredibly introspective and who know really how to be honest. But I'd say the general culture, what's generally accepted versus what's not accepted, is completely okay for you to trash your daddy, to trash men in the community, that's acceptable, but nobody talks about mama. Like, you don't ever talk about mama. So it's like that's
ever.
built in our culture, to that women are to never be, any ounce of criticism is that is just do not pass go. Like, don't do it. But the men it's okay. Like, we can talk about them. So like I
Yeah.
said, I do think sometimes there can be a balance in that versus being like, hey, maybe both of us are culprits in this, or maybe I'm just totally the culprit. Maybe this ain't got nothing to do with men. Maybe this is I made personal bad decisions. I believed in a lie, and now I am experiencing the repercussions of it, and I have to maybe change some different things so maybe I can still have a decent life moving forward. So,
It's
yep,
it's it's both men and women's fault. We're all running away from accountability and responsibility. At the end of the day, like I'd say, especially amongst young people, it's just young men are running away from the idea of being uh, husbands and leaders and fathers, right? Because you know, and there's good reason for it because they think it's a trick. That all women are hoes and they're just gonna divorce me and uh, take all my money and ruin my life, and that's understandable. And women are running away from being wise because they think men are tyrants, and because the extreme
yeah,
of
no, that's
order
true.
is
That's true.
tyranny,
I do.
right? The extreme of order, the extreme of freedom is chaos, and the extreme of order is tyranny, right? And that's how a lot of young black women viewed their grandfathers, right? Who had the more who had our grandmothers who were the submissive wife. They viewed our grandfathers as tyrants in the house, right? Like Kevin Samuel was saying, like The Color Purple, like our grandfathers were abusers and they beat up our grandmas and stuff like that. That's all that perception. Like, oh, don't marry a black man that's in the church because he's just gonna abuse you and take advantage of you and
Right,
be
right,
a
right, right.
tyrant and run off and start another family somewhere. And I'm not gonna say that didn't happen, but that was not every single black house was not that. Like, so
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I
yeah,
I appreciate you hopping on. I'm gonna have to wrap this one up, but thank you for calling in.
yeah.
Um, thank you for
Yeah,
the rest. I'm sorry.
no, thank you for bringing up the topic because it needs to be talked about.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. You have a good one.
You too.
All right. Well, again, thank you for all of you who have sent in your support. Raw. I don't want to mess up your name, but I think it's Raw name. I hope I'm so sorry if I butchered that, but you know who I'm talking about. Thank you for the super chat. Infinity MFG also for the super chat. For those of you who have sent any love. Again, if you'd like to show some support to this channel, you can find me on Cash App or Venmo Shay Sade. Also, if you'd like to receive additional exclusive content from me, you can sign up for my channel membership and become a monthly supporter. Appreciate all of you for hopping on, and we will talk later. Bye.